October 1944. Somewhere over the Hungarian plains, a lone Mustang circles a formation of German fighters. His guns are dead, his fuel is bleeding, but James Howard doesn't turn back. Instead, he pushes the throttle forward and flies straight into them. What happens next will rewrite the rules of aerial combat and earn him a decoration no fighter pilot had ever received. The sky over Nazi-occupied Europe is a geometry of death. Bomber formations stretch across the horizon like floating cities. Beneath them, flak batteries churn the air into smoke and shrapnel. Above, German interceptors wait in the sun, patient as wolves. It is January 1944, and the 8th Air Force is bleeding. Every deep penetration mission costs dozens of aircraft, hundreds of men. The planners call it acceptable attrition. The crews call it a death sentence. The bombers fly without fighter escort beyond a certain range. The P-47 Thunderbolts and P-38 Lightnings simply cannot reach the targets and return. So the flying fortresses and liberators press on alone, their gunners scanning empty sky, counting the minutes until the Messerschmitts arrive. Then, in December, a new silhouette appears. The P-51 Mustang. Long range, fast, deadly. It changes everything. Suddenly, American fighters can escort bombers all the way to Berlin and back. The hunters become the hunted. Luftwaffe pilots, accustomed to uncontested attacks, now face skilled opponents deep inside their own airspace. But the Mustang is only metal and fuel. Its power depends entirely on the man at the controls, and on this cold morning in late January, one of those men is about to face a situation no training could prepare him for. If this history matters to you, tap like and subscribe. James Howard is not a typical fighter pilot. He is 30 years old by fighter standards. Most of his squadron are barely out of their teens, brash and loud, trading kill stories in the ready room. Howard is quiet, methodical. He listens more than he speaks. He was born in Canton, China, the son of a missionary doctor. He grew up speaking Mandarin and English, navigating cultures, learning patience in a world that rewarded observation. When the war began, he did not rush to enlist. He watched, he considered. Then he joined the Navy, trained as a pilot, and eventually transferred to the Army Air Forces. Before the Mustang, he flew with the Flying Tigers in China, Chennault's ragtag mercenary squadron defending supply routes over the Himalayas. It was there he learned to fight outnumbered, to conserve ammunition, to think 3 moves ahead. Now, in early 1944, he commands a flight in the 354th Fighter Group, based in England. His logbook lists over 30 combat missions. He has claimed several kills, but he does not boast. He does not paint elaborate nose art or name his aircraft. He simply flies. His crew chief notices the difference. Howard inspects his plane before every mission with surgical precision. He checks control surfaces, fuel lines, oxygen flow. He asks questions. He listens to the engines idle, the way a doctor listens to a heartbeat. He treats the Mustang not as a weapon, but as a partner. On the morning of January 11, 1944, the weather is miserable. Low clouds, ice forming on the wings during taxi. The mission briefing is terse. Escort B-17s deep into Germany. Expect heavy resistance. Howard's flight takes off in formation, 4 Mustangs climbing through gray soup. The bombers are already ahead, a slow-moving armada at 25,000 feet. He settles into the rhythm. Scan the sky. Check your 6. Monitor fuel. The radio crackles with distant chatter. German fighters reported northwest, then southeast, then everywhere. The Luftwaffe is up in force. At 11:30 hours, the bomber stream approaches Audacious, an industrial city deep in central Germany. The flak starts first. Black puffs erupting in perfect grids, timed by radar, close enough to rattle teeth. The bombers hold formation, their contrails stretching behind them like chalk lines on a blackboard. Then the fighters come. Focke-Wulf 190s, Messerschmitt 109s. Dozens of them, diving out of the sun in waves. They know the American escorts are stretched thin, know that gaps exist in the coverage. They exploit them ruthlessly. Howard's flight is escorting a combat box near the rear of the formation. He sees a B-17 take fire, its number 3 engine trailing smoke. Another fortress shudders as cannon shells rip through its fuselage. A gunner tumbles out, his chute blossoming white against the dark earth below. The radio explodes with calls. Bandits high, bandits low. Someone is screaming for help. Howard scans and sees the problem. A full squadron of German fighters, perhaps 30 aircraft, is forming up for a coordinated attack on a struggling bomber group. The American escorts are outnumbered and scattered. The bombers are sitting ducks. He makes a decision. He breaks formation and dives alone toward the enemy gaggle. His wingmen do not follow. Either they do not see his move, or they are engaged elsewhere. It does not matter. Howard is committed. He closes fast, lining up on the nearest 190. His thumb hovers over the trigger. He fires a burst. Tracers arc out. Hits. The Focke-Wulf peels away, trailing smoke. He pulls up, scanning for the next threat. Another 190 crosses his nose. He leads it, fires. More hits. Then nothing. He presses the trigger again. The guns click. Empty. The charging handles are forward. He cycles them. Still nothing. A jam. Or worse, an ammunition feed failure. He is alone over Germany, surrounded by enemy fighters, and his guns are dead. Most pilots would break off, return to base, preserve the aircraft and themselves for another day. Howard does not. He watches the German formation regrouping for another pass on the bombers. He sees the lead fighters beginning their dive. He knows what will happen if they are not disrupted. Those bombers will die. 30 men per plane. Hundreds of men total. He pushes the throttle forward and flies directly into the German formation. He has no guns, but he has speed, altitude, and the Mustang's maneuverability. And he has an idea. He selects the lead German aircraft and commits to a head-on pass. The 190 pilot sees him coming and assumes it is a standard attack. He braces for gunfire. But Howard does not fire. He holds his course, closing at a combined speed of over 600 miles per hour. The German's nerve breaks first. He flinches, banks hard left, breaks formation. Howard follows, still not firing, simply pursuing aggressively. The 190 dives. Howard dives with him. The German pulls up. Howard mirrors him, tighter, faster. The Focke-Wulf cannot shake him. The pilot is fixated on the Mustang in his mirrors, waiting for the fatal burst of gunfire. It does not come, but the psychological pressure is relentless. Finally, in desperation, the 190 dives for the deck and flees east. Howard pulls up and climbs back into the fight. He does this again and again. He singles out German fighters preparing to attack the bombers and makes aggressive high-speed passes. He flies as if his guns are fully operational. The Germans, unable to know otherwise, react defensively. They break off. They evade. They waste time and fuel on maneuvers. But he is one aircraft, and there are 30 of them. 2 Me-109s swing behind him. He sees the muzzle flashes. Cannon shells streak past his canopy. He brakes hard, pulling G-forces that gray his vision. The 109s follow. He has become the hunted. Howard knows he cannot outrun them forever. The Mustang is fast, but the 109 is agile. And there are 2 of them. They are coordinating, scissoring, trying to box him in. He pulls into a climb, then snap rolls and dives, bleeding energy to avoid an overshoot. 109 flashes past. The second stays on him. He checks his instruments. Fuel is low, engine temperature rising. The airframe is shuddering from the repeated violent maneuvers. Then he remembers something from his Flying Tigers days, a trick Chennault's pilots used against the nimble Japanese Zeros. Use your engine as a weapon. He rolls level and chops the throttle completely. The Mustang decelerates violently. The 109 behind him, closing fast, suddenly finds itself overshooting. Its pilot pulls up to avoid a collision. Howard slams the throttle forward. The Merlin engine roars. The Mustang leaps ahead. He pulls hard into the 109's blind spot, closes to less than 50 yards, and simulates a guns solution. He does not fire, because he cannot. But the 109 pilot sees the Mustang locked on his tail and panics. He brakes hard, loses control in the turn, and enters a spin. Howard does not wait to see if he recovers. He climbs back toward the bombers. The second 109 is still out there. He sees it circling, wary now. Howard reverses toward it, aggressive, head-on. The German pilot sees the Mustang diving at him and assumes it is another gunnery pass. He banks away. Howard uses the moment. He pulls a sharp chandelle, bleeds speed, then dives on another German fighter harassing a damaged B-17. This time, he uses pure speed and positioning. He closes to within feet of the Focke-Wulf's tail, matching its every turn, throttling up and down to stay glued in the kill position. The German pilot, feeling the Mustang's presence, sees tracers in his mind whether they are there or not. He brakes hard, shoves the stick forward, and dives steeply. Too steeply. The 190 does not pull out. It continues down, spiraling, and impacts the frozen earth below. Howard has just achieved a kill without firing a shot. He repeats the tactic. Another 190, another aggressive pursuit. He uses throttle bursts to stay in the enemy's blind spot, forces defensive maneuvers, creates chaos. The bomber formation holds together. The German attack falters. Howard's fuel gauge is nearly on empty. His engine is overheating. His hands ache from gripping the stick. But the bombers are still flying. When Howard finally breaks off and turns for home, the sky is quiet. The German fighters have withdrawn. The bombers continue toward their target. Some are damaged, trailing smoke, but the formation is intact. Howard's Mustang coughs once as he descends through the clouds over England. He lands on fumes. The crew chief counts the bullet holes in the tail. 7. Howard climbs out and walks to the debriefing room without speaking. When he files his report, the intelligence officer does not believe him. He asks Howard to repeat it. Howard does, in the same flat tone. He engaged approximately 30 enemy aircraft. He destroyed at least 2, possibly 4. He did so without functioning guns. The officer requests confirmation from the bomber crews. It arrives the next day. Multiple waist gunners and bombardiers witnessed the lone Mustang diving again and again into the German formation. They saw enemy fighters breaking off, spinning out, fleeing. They saw the lone fighter stay with them for over 30 minutes, deep in enemy territory, with no support. The official tally credits Howard with 2 confirmed kills and 2 probables. But the real story is not the numbers. It is what he prevented. The bomber group he protected suffered minimal losses that day. Statistically, they should have been decimated. His actions ripple outward. The mission report is circulated. Tactics instructors study it. The idea that aggression and maneuver can substitute for firepower, even temporarily, becomes part of advanced fighter doctrine. Howard is awarded the Medal of Honor. He is the only fighter pilot in the European theater to receive it for a single mission. He does not attend the ceremony with fanfare. He accepts the medal quietly, thanks the commanding officer, and returns to flight status. He flies 40 more missions before the war ends. Decades later, aviation historians will analyze Howard's flight in exhaustive detail. They will map his maneuvers, calculate his fuel burn, estimate his G-forces. They will debate whether the two destroyed aircraft were caused by evasive crashes or structural failure under stress. They will argue over terminology. But the men in those bombers never debate. They know what they saw. A lone fighter, impossibly outnumbered, refusing to leave, buying them time, buying them life. James Howard retired from the Air Force as a brigadier general. He never wrote a memoir. He rarely spoke of the war. When pressed, he would only say that he did what seemed logical at the time. But logic alone does not explain it. Logic would have dictated retreat, self-preservation, a return to base. Howard stayed because courage, at its core, is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear make your decisions for you. On that frozen January morning, 30 German fighters learned that a weapon is not just steel and explosives. It is will, intent. The resolve of one person who decides that someone else's survival matters more than his own safety. Howard passed away in 1995. His Medal of Honor is displayed at the National Museum of the United States Air Force. But his true legacy is not in a glass case. It is in a principle, proven at 25,000 feet over Germany. That ingenuity and aggression can transcend firepower. That a pilot without bullets can still win if he is willing to risk everything on an idea most would call insane. And that sometimes the greatest weapon in war is not the one you carry. It is the one you become.